Men, the most dangerous traps aren't physical. They're psychological prisons. You don't even realize you're locked in until you've already lost yourself. Some women have mastered the art of setting invisible traps that exploit your deepest insecurities, your desire to be a good man, and your fear of being seen as inadequate. These aren't conscious conspiracies. They're learned behaviors that keep you confused, compliant, and convinced that your unhappiness is your own fault. Before we dive in, hit subscribe, smash that like button, and drop a comment if you've ever felt trapped in a relationship but couldn't explain why. Your recognition might help another man see the bars of his cage before they become permanent. Trap 1. The potential trap. I see who you could become. This trap involves her falling in love, not with who you are, but with who she believes you could become with her guidance. She sees your potential and positions herself as the catalyst for your transformation. This sounds flattering initially. Someone believes in you, but the trap is that her love is conditional on you becoming this imagined version rather than accepting who you actually are. The trap works because men are often socialized to be providers and achievers, so the promise that you could be more with her help appeals to your drive for improvement. But the manipulation is that her love remains perpetually just out of reach, always dependent on the next transformation, the next achievement, the next change that will finally make you enough. Notice whether she compliments who you are now or only who you could become. Does she say, "I love how ambitious you are"? Or, "You could be so successful if you just applied yourself more"? The first accepts present reality. The second withholds acceptance until you change. If her affection is always tied to future improvements rather than present reality, you're in the potential trap. Watch what happens when you achieve the goals she set for you. Does she celebrate and accept you? Or does she immediately identify new areas for improvement? If the goalposts move every time you reach them, her love was never about you reaching any particular destination. It was about keeping you perpetually striving for approval you'll never fully receive. Pay attention to whether you feel accepted or constantly evaluated. In healthy relationships, partners inspire growth while accepting current reality. In the potential trap, you're always a work in progress whose present self isn't quite worthy of full love. The psychological mechanism is conditional love based on transformation. By loving your potential rather than your reality, she ensures you're always chasing her approval, always feeling slightly inadequate, always believing that full acceptance is just one more change away. The long-term impact is losing yourself entirely while chasing an imaginary version she claims to see. You transform your career, personality, habits, and values, trying to become worthy of the love that remains forever conditional on the next transformation. Meanwhile, the man you actually are disappears, replaced by a performance designed to earn approval that never fully arrives. Trap 2. The Savior Trap. Only you can fix me. This trap involves her positioning you as the only person who can save her from her problems, making you responsible for her emotional well-being, mental health, or life circumstances. She's had a hard life, traumatic past, or ongoing struggles, and you're the hero who can finally make everything better. This appeals to men's protective instincts and desire to be needed, but the trap is that her problems are never ending, and your failure to fix them becomes your failure as a partner. The trap works because men often find purpose in being needed and solving problems. Being someone's savior feels meaningful. But the manipulation is that her issues are either unsolvable by another person or deliberately maintained because being broken keeps you locked in the role of caretaker, who can never leave without being the villain who abandoned someone vulnerable. Notice whether her problems improve with your help or whether they remain constant regardless of your efforts. Are you genuinely helping her grow stronger, or are you just preventing consequences while the underlying patterns continue? If years of your support haven't created any lasting improvement, you're not helping. You're being used. Watch whether she takes responsibility for her own healing, or whether she's outsourced that responsibility entirely to you. Does she do the work of therapy, self-reflection, and change? Or does she expect your love and support to magically fix everything while she remains passive? Healing requires active participation. If you're doing all the work of managing her well-being, you're trapped. Pay attention to what happens when you set boundaries or suggest she needs professional help beyond what you can provide. Does she accept that some problems require specialized support? Or does she accuse you of abandoning her, not loving her enough, or being like everyone else who gave up on her? The guilt trip for having normal human limitations reveals the trap. The psychological mechanism is making you responsible for her well-being, while making any boundary setting or self-care on your part look like abandonment. You're trapped between exhausting yourself, trying to save her, or facing intense guilt for being the person who gave up on her when she needed you most. The long-term impact is complete depletion as you pour all your energy into a bottomless pit of need that never fills. Your own needs disappear because they seem selfish compared to her crises. Your life becomes entirely about managing her problems, while yours go unaddressed. And when you finally collapse from exhaustion, she'll find another savior, while you're left wondering why your love wasn't enough to fix her. Trap 3. The loyalty test trap. If you loved me, you'd prove it. This trap involves her constantly testing your loyalty through increasingly unreasonable demands disguised as proof of love. A man who really loves her would do X, sacrifice Y, or accept Z. Each test seems reasonable in isolation, but collectively they're designed to see how much you'll tolerate, how many boundaries you'll cross, and how completely you'll prioritize her over yourself, your values, or other relationships. The trap works because loyalty is genuinely important in relationships. So, requests framed as loyalty tests seem legitimate. Men want to prove they're committed, reliable, and trustworthy, so they accept tests that gradually erode their autonomy and self-respect. But the manipulation is that these aren't genuine checks of loyalty. They're calibrations to see how controllable you are. Notice whether her requests align with normal relationship expectations, or whether they require you to violate your own values, boundaries, or commitments to others. Does she want you to be faithful and honest, or does she want you to cut off longtime friends who she's decided are threats? Normal loyalty tests verify commitment. Manipulation loyalty tests verify control. Watch whether the tests escalate over time. Does proving your loyalty once satisfy her, or does each past test lead to a bigger one? If you're constantly proving yourself through increasingly difficult demands, you're not building trust. You're demonstrating how much control she has. Pay attention to whether she applies the same loyalty standards to herself. Is she willing to make equivalent sacrifices, or are the tests one-directional? If you're expected to prove loyalty constantly, while she faces no equivalent requirements, the tests aren't about mutual commitment. They're about establishing hierarchy, where you're always proving yourself to her. The psychological mechanism is using your desire to be a good partner against you by framing unreasonable demands as loyalty verification. Each test you pass establishes a new baseline of what you're willing to do, allowing the next test to push even further. The long-term impact is complete erosion of boundaries, as you've passed so many tests that saying no to any request feels like failing at loyalty. You've sacrificed friendships, hobbies, values, and self-respect proving your love, and stopping now would mean all those sacrifices were for nothing. You're trapped by sunk costs in a relationship where proving loyalty never ends. Trap 4. The comparison trap. Why can't you be more like him? This trap involves her constantly comparing you to other men. Her ex, her friend's boyfriend, her father, celebrities, or fictional characters, always highlighting what they have that you lack. This creates perpetual inadequacy by ensuring there's always someone who's better at something than you are. No matter what you excel at, someone else excels at something different, and she makes sure you know about it. The trap works because comparisons are inevitable in life, and most people want to be the best in their partner's eyes. By constantly introducing comparisons where you fall short, she ensures you're always striving to be better, always feeling slightly inadequate, always trying to compete with men who either don't exist or who you're seeing through a filtered lens. Notice whether her comparisons are occasional observations or constant criticisms. Does she say, "I appreciate how my dad taught me about cars," as neutral observation, or "Why can't you be handy like my dad," as an attack? Healthy observations acknowledge differences. Manipulative comparisons highlight your deficiency. Watch whether the comparison targets rotate to ensure you can never win. Are you criticized for not being ambitious like her friend's boyfriend? Then when you focus on career, criticized for not being present like her ex. If the goalposts move to whatever you're not currently prioritizing, the comparisons aren't about genuine preferences. They're about maintaining your inadequacy. Pay attention to whether these comparisons come with actionable feedback or just make you feel bad. Does she clearly state what she wants you to do differently, or does she just point out that other men are better? If there's no path to improvement, the comparison is designed to hurt, not to help. The psychological mechanism is ensuring you never feel secure by introducing infinite comparisons to men who are better at something than you. Because no one excels at everything, there's always someone who's more ambitious, romantic, successful, attentive, exciting, or stable, and she makes sure you know you're lacking. The long-term impact is permanent inadequacy that destroys your self-worth. You're simultaneously trying to be more ambitious, more present, more romantic, more stable, more exciting. An impossible combination. You transform yourself constantly trying to match whoever she's currently comparing you to, losing your authentic self while never becoming enough because the target keeps changing. Trap 5. The isolation trap. They don't understand us. This trap involves gradually separating you from your support system under the guise of protecting your relationship. Your friends are bad influences. Your family doesn't understand her. Your hobbies take time away from the relationship. Your coworkers are inappropriate. Slowly, every connection outside the relationship becomes a problem that needs to be minimized. Eventually, she's your entire world, which gives her complete control because leaving means losing everything. The trap works because some isolation is normal in relationships. Couples do spend less time with others as they bond. But the manipulation is in eliminating support systems entirely rather than naturally rebalancing. By the time you realize you're isolated, rebuilding those connections feels impossible, and she's convinced you that no one else understands or supports your relationship anyway. Notice whether she encourages healthy connections outside the relationship, or whether she views all external relationships as threats. Does she want you to have a guys' night sometimes, or does she create drama every time you plan to see friends? Healthy partners support outside connections. Controllers eliminate them. Watch what reasons she gives for why people should be cut off. Are they genuinely harmful individuals, or are they just people who might give you perspective on the relationship? If she's particularly opposed to friends or family who've questioned the relationship or noticed changes in you, their opposition might be the point. They're seeing the trap. Pay attention to how you feel about maintaining outside relationships. Do you avoid friends because it's not worth the fight, the guilt, or the consequences? If maintaining normal social connections has become so difficult that you've stopped trying, you're experiencing intentional isolation. The psychological mechanism is making your world so small that she's at the center of everything, eliminating anyone who might offer alternative perspectives or support for leaving. Without outside connections, you have nowhere to go and no one to validate your reality when she tells you that your perceptions are wrong. The long-term impact is complete dependence where leaving seems impossible because you've lost your entire support system. Your friends stopped calling after enough cancelled plans. Your family feels distant after years of reduced contact. Your hobbies atrophied from disuse. She's your entire world, which means leaving her means losing everything, which means you're trapped, even if you're miserable.